What if the one move that actually flips our season doesn't look flashy on a stat card, doesn't trend on social for more than a couple of hours, but instantly changes how every opponent has to attack the rim against us? Would you want to know it right now? Or after we see it erase a run in Denver in May, and you're asking how the hell it suddenly got so hard to finish in our paint? What if the quiet answer to our loudest problem is the kind of player you only notice when he's not there, because when he is, drivers bail on layups, floaters turn into kickouts, and Steph gets a cleaner runway for the one thing people say we don't do anymore: spam the pick and roll until a defense breaks? You felt it last season. We could hang with anyone, then spend 6 minutes watching second chance points turn a good plan into a scramble. You know that sinking feeling. A great defensive possession followed by a tip-in. A blocked shot that somehow bounces to them. A guard who shouldn't be living in the lane suddenly living there because we had to overhelp. The math wasn't kind, and the margins were cruel. And in this league, margins are everything. So here's the promise for the day. We're going to peel back the layers on a front court solution that hits the exact pressure points that punish us paint protection. Vertical spacing, defensive rebounding, and the ability to hold our shape without turning our defense into a rotating carousel. We're going to talk cost, fit, and timeline. We'll talk about how this changes Draymond's job, what it does for Steph's shot diet, what it unlocks for JK's downhill burst, and how it slots next to our wings against Jokic, AD, and the long bodies in Minnesota and OKC. And yes, we'll get into what a deal could realistically look like without playing fantasy GM. Before we go there, you know the drill. You're watching Warriors News Fan Report Cap. Subscribe, ring the bell, and throw a like if you live for the details no one else slows down to explain. This community sees the game inside the game, and today is exactly that kind of breakdown. Stay to the end, because I want your take on how far you go to make this happen. And because I'm going to tell you exactly where I stand on it, let's set the scene the right way. Our identity has always been movement and leverage. Steph bends gravity, Clay punishes daylight, Draymond connects the pieces, and our best versions find a center who makes everything bigger without needing the ball. When that piece is right, the floor feels wider, the cuts feel sharper, and the defense looks like it has a secret feedback loop. Pressure the ball high, protect the rim behind, end the possession on the glass, run. When that piece is off too slow, too light, or too foul-prone, the chain breaks and the whole operation starts to creak. Modern playoff basketball is a constant negotiation between switching and drop, between scrambling and staying home. What we've missed at times is the luxury to choose. Too often, our hand has been forced. Switch because we must. Help because we have to. Cross our fingers on the backside because somebody taller is sneaking in for an easy putback. The fix is not a celebrity name. It's a role executed at a near-elite level. Absorb contact. Own the restricted area. Challenge without biting. Rebound like you're insulted the ball tried to escape. And then sprint into a screen that actually hurts the guy chasing. Steph, you know exactly what that looks like when it's humming. Think back to our best Bogut nights, when vertical size and instincts let our wings stay hugged to shooters. Think of the Yavel minutes that felt like a trampoline under the rim. Think of Looney's Masterclass series, where positioning and timing did the talking. The archetype isn't a throwback post hub. It's a clean hands big. Screen, roll, catch, finish, reset. Defensively, drop to the dotted line, 2 hands high, live with contested twos. Close the door on second chances. Now, let's talk ripple effects. With a true paint anchor, Draymond becomes a free safety again, instead of a full-time firefighter. Wiggins gets to shade stars without constantly carrying the burden of the last line. Our closeouts can be shorter and smarter because the rim is not an invitation. Offensively, a vertical spacer pulls the weak side tagger a step deeper. That one step is the difference between Steph's pull-up three being a prayer or a practice shot. It turns our ghost screens and Spain actions from cute to deadly. Because there's a real lob threat that keeps the backline honest. The risk column is real too. Any big who lives at the rim must stay on the floor, avoid early fouls, survive switches late in the clock, hit enough free throws that opponents don't steal points with hack tactics. Offenses in the West can go 5 out at a moment's notice. You need feet that recover and a brain that knows when to retreat versus when to blitz. There's also the cost question: assets leaving the building, minutes reallocated, chemistry rewired. You don't make a move like this for vibes. You do it because it projects to change the shot diet on both ends from day one. That's the table. Here's the silverware. We're talking about a solution that fits our age curve, our cap realities, and our playoff gauntlet. It's not about chasing a name for a press conference. It's about reinforcing the spine of a contender that still believes in winning now without detonating tomorrow. And it's about complimenting Steph in a way that makes his late prime easier, not by asking him to be more, but by removing the junk he shouldn't have to compensate for anymore. If you've been with me this far, you're already connecting the dots. But I told you we'd keep it tight until the intro was done. So let's put it on the record, clean and clear, and then unpack every angle. The news being worked on inside league circles, and the scenario that has quietly accelerated over the last stretch is Golden State pushing to land. Utah's Walker Kessler as the rim-protecting, glass-eating, lob-finishing anchor for this era of Warriors basketball. The framework being discussed in multiple corners is the classic contender for upside. Exchange: veteran shooting salary plus future capital in return for a young defensive centerpiece. It's not official as I talk to you. This is an active pursuit, a real exploration, not a press release transaction. Treat it as developing, but take it seriously. Because the fit is exactly our need. Kessler is the blueprint of the modern non-shooting 5 you win with. Length for days. Timing that gets in the driver's head before he even plants his second step. And efficiency at the rim that turns good passes into guaranteed points. He alters behavior. Guards come downhill, see 2 raised arms and a second jump body, and start thinking about Plan B. The best shot blockers don't just collect highlights. They erase attempts that never happen. That's what you pay for in May, not November clips. On offense, the partnership with Steph writes itself. High-angle screen, early slip, pocket pass, lob, bucket. Re-screen into Spain action. The backline tagger is now in a lose-lose. Step to the roller, and Steph lifts into a clean 3. Stay home, and the pass goes upstairs where only one guy can reach it. Our handoff game gets teeth. 2. Dribble handoffs at the elbow force the on-ball defender to chase around a strong frame, while the big drops just enough to open a rim run. No need to overcomplicate. Keep the reads binary and let gravity do the work. Defensively, the click is instant with Draymond. Let the big own the restricted area. Let Draymond roam with intent. Now our nail help can be timed instead of panicked. Our low man rotations can be on 2 feet instead of a last-second launch. Against Jokic, the assignment becomes a 2-man puzzle. Challenge vertically. Crowd the dribble at the right moment. Force the pickups. Live with contested hooks and end possessions on the glass. Against a D, it's about not conceding deep position early, absorbing the first bump, and trusting the second contest to matter. Against Sabonis, it's elbows and discipline meet the drive without bailing him out. Against Chet, it's balance and discipline. Don't bite on the face-up. Take away the runway and let length on length do what it does. Rotations shift, but they don't have to break. Looney remains a culture compass and matchup piece. There will be nights when his hands, angles, and communication are the answer for 18 straight minutes. There will also be nights when a fresher, springier rim deterrent is the change-up that resets a series. Trace keeps developing in a role that isn't forced to be everything at once. Draymond at the 4 becomes less of a compromise and more of a weapon, more help stunts, more organized traps, more trust in the back-end dot from a team-building perspective. The appeal is obvious. Young defensive anchor on a manageable number moving toward restricted free agency down the line means team control, bird rights, and the chance to plan instead of scramble. It's future-proofing without waving the white flag on the present. The cost? That's the knot we have to pull carefully. The Jazz are not in the charity business. They'll ask for real capital and a clean salary match. The talk around the league frames it as a shooter forward with a short or medium runway plus picks, something that gives. Utah spacing immediately and optionality later. That's the give to get. Why would Utah even listen? Timelines and leverage. If they decide their future front court balance points in another direction, or if extension conversations aren't aligned, flipping a premium defensive piece for shooting and draft control is a classic retool move. No one wants to lose a player for nothing. If the market says the best dollar today is a contender's pick tomorrow plus rotation offense now, teams make that move every year. None of this guarantees a yes. It simply explains why the phone calls aren't fantasy. Let's stress test the basketball. Offensively, you get a clear identity when the second unit hits the floor. Pair the big with a guard who loves the pocket pass, space the corners, and run the same menu with simpler reads. Stagger Steph so he gets a diet of traditional PNR when defenses are softer, then return to our motion counters when the starters reconvene. A true roller forces teams to tag from the corners. That buys Clay and our wings an extra beat, and our shooters have made a living on that extra beat for a decade. The concerns are fair. What happens in a 5-out series when the other team's center hits threes? You don't build one plan. You build options. Sit in a deeper drop early, then lift to the level late, then flip to switch and peel when the clock dips under 6. Mix in a zone to steal a rhythm, or a couple of possessions where Draymond is the 5, and the big becomes an innings eater who returns when whistles cool down. The point is not to marry one approach. It's to add one that we trust. Now the playoff pictures we all draw up in our heads. Denver. The goal is to influence Jokic toward touches that start a step farther than he wants and end on high arcs, not layups. Minnesota. A strong-shouldered rim body to absorb. First hits while our wings bother passing lanes make them play in a phone booth, not a runway. Lakers. If a D sees a body every time, the rest of their spacing looks different, and suddenly LeBron has to decide if the drive is worth that extra contest when help isn't late. OKC. Young legs meet young legs. Vertical protection shrinks the paint for SGA S-Craft and forces more kickouts over outstretched arms. That's how small adjustments become big series changes. There's a cultural layer, too. A screening big who sets the tone with physicality, who doesn't need a diet of post touches, who treats every rebound like it's rent due. Fans feel that at Chase. Teammates feed on it. And if you think Steph's eyes don't light up when he sees a partner who can sprint into a screen, flip the angle, then explode to the rim for a pressure release. You haven't watched the way he grins after a perfectly timed roll. Let's talk numbers without pretending we're in the room. The range that makes sense is the kind that doesn't rip the core but acknowledges you're paying for a premium. Defensive skill in a league where premium is expensive. A veteran shooter's contract plus a first in protection language. Something like that is the vocabulary, not the final sentence. If it creeps into multiple unprotected picks and a blue-chip young piece, then you slow down, breathe, and recheck the math. We want to add an anchor, not subtract our future. What about offensive limitations? He's not spacing the 3. That's real. But vertical spacing counts, and in our ecosystem, that gravity is historically deadly. If the finishing holds, the rebounding holds, and the foul rate stays under control, you're winning the possession math anyway. Our spacing isn't dead because a center doesn't shoot. It dies when the center can't punish help. This one punishes help. Development curve. Bigs with timing get better with reps. The first 6 weeks are footwork and language, our calls, our coverages, our reads. By Christmas, the habits show up. When to flip the screen, when to short roll, where to present hands. By the All-Star break, you're not thinking new guy. You're thinking this is how we play now. The best compliment. For a role player on a contender is invisibility, he blends. Until a block or a dunk yanks you out of your seat. A quick reality check because we're grown-ups here. None of this is stamped. It's pursuit and momentum, not a press conference. There are versions that get close and versions that stall. There are teams that might jump in with different offers. That's the market. But the reason we're spending this much time on it is simple. The fit is almost textbook for what we need and who we are when we're our best dot. So, where do you draw your line? Would you move a protected first? 2? Is there a specific player you refuse to include no matter what? Do you see the defense-first return on investment as worth the draft capital? Or do you prefer to hold and trust internal growth plus mid-season be-out shopping? I want real answers in the comments, smart, specific, informed. This community's track record on reading the room is strong. And front offices do pay attention to how fan bases talk about value. Here's mine. And I'll keep it straight. I'm in if the price stays in the lane of shooter salary plus a first with sensible protections. And I'm out if it turns into a 2 first, young core piece drain. We need the anchor, yes. We also need the runway. A move that strengthens the spine and keeps the cupboard stocked is how you extend Steph's window responsibly. Anything that raids tomorrow for a marginal upgrade today, isn't it? That's my line. I think this specific target hits the sweet spot more often than not, but it has to be the right price. Tell me your line. Who stays, who goes, how many picks, and what protections? Would you prioritize rebounding and rim defense over another shooter in that backup forward slot? Would you rather bet on internal jumps from our young bigs and keep the powder dry for a different deadline move? Drop your take, and don't be shy steel man the argument you don't agree with. You'll sharpen your own dot to close. My opinion, and the clarification that matters. I believe adding this profile of center specifically, this one makes us better from day one and buys back defensive control we've been renting. And this is a speculation based on active exploration and credible traction. Not an official move. Consider it a serious possibility that fits our needs if the terms land in the right place.